multi folk, and maybe Nicola could pass that on to you as well. So I'd like to welcome Mark from Smart here. He's going to go over how to get started with your new Smart panel that you've got in school. It's very exciting. Show you lots of hints and tips. Yeah, so that's 4 o'clock on the button. I'll pass you on. You can pop things in the chat. I see that Steph from Smart is here as well, so she'll be able to answer some of your questions too. And Jim and I are both on the chat, keeping an eye on it as well if there's anything from an Aberdeenshire perspective. So over to you, Mark.
Super. Thanks very much for the introduction, and apologies for everybody else who's just listened to my waffle for the last few minutes. But yeah, welcome. What we're kind of going to have a look at, as we kind of said, is just a bit of an overview. We're going to start with some basics of how can I plug it in, how can I turn it on, how can I use it the same as I always have done. But hopefully then kind of push the boat out a little bit further and look at it, how can I use the boards in some great new interactive ways. And actually even without plugging computer, and if we've got time at the end, we'll look at it, how can we actually send that out to student devices and get all of that interaction, lovely bits as well. So just a very brief introduction of myself. I'm a former primary school teacher myself, in case you haven't guessed from the accent, slightly further south than you here in England, but taught a whole range of stuff, became a Smart ambassador, which I'll come on to in a moment. Thoroughly loved the software, the hardware, how it really supported the learning and teaching for my students and obviously for myself. So obviously I've got now the position to support you as of today, but long term for that as well. There's a few links I'll send you at the end. There's my email address. So any other questions like that, feel free to drop me an email. Feel free to say a hi and just ask questions. And of course, Stephanie as well. She has joined from Smart as well. She'll probably put a hi in the chat at some point. She is a little bit more local to you, so we can kind of have that support and actually come out and see you in person where needed. We did run a session last week for just 2 or 3 schools. There you go, told you she would. 2 or 3 schools across the Shire as well, where they actually wanted to come together and actually have a bit more of a personal webinar as well. So it's not just a one-off, quick, I've got to learn everything. Any more support long-term, just ask myself. I'm going to drop Jim in it as well, and he'll give you a hand as well. So here's my Smart board. What I have done to start with, just for nice and simplicity, is to plug it in with my laptop. So as you can see here, I have then just got my laptop connected. It's good to go. So any application that I'm opening, anything that I'm opening on here will just be a big touch screen, nice and simple. What I have done to do that, I have plugged in my laptop, as I've already said. I might have done that with my HDMI and my USB cable, or in this case here, I have just got a single USB-C cable. That is make sure it does data, make sure it is the correct one itself there. But usually you'll have that HDMI cable and the USB cable. That USB cable is really important because it does the touch and that kind of data side of it, as then the HDMI will do your sound, will do your visuals for that sake as well. So if you're only plugged in one cable, it looks great, but you haven't got any movement, that's because you haven't got that second cable going in as well. Obviously, if you've got a dock, if you've got something like that, it might be slightly different. So now I've plugged it in properly. I've got the software installed on my computer. It is Smart Notebook 24. That is the latest one. It should be there ready for you. If you haven't got that latest software itself, again, just ask the team and they will get that deployed out to you as well. Touch screen, open up any app, you're good to go. But of course, being a Smart board as well, you have got the pens as well. So quite uniquely to Smart, I don't need to change anything. I don't need to do anything itself. If I want to just move something, I can. And then if I want to write something, I'm just writing as well. It will automatically know that you can ink on it. So any of those applications that you're using already, just write on them. And if that's the starting point and that's where you're going to leave today, pretty much we're all done within the first kind of 4 minutes. We can build on that. But I've got that movement of an object. I've got the inking of the pen. If you want multiple people come to do that at the same time they can, pick up both pens. I can be writing on there. Mine's a slightly different board, so yours will be the same color. There we go. So now I've got the same for that as well. Pen will be the pen, finger will be the finger. And then if you want to rub anything out, it's just that large surface, front of your hand, back of your hand, whatever it might be. Swish of the ponytail if you so desire. but it is then that erases that large object. I'm doing that at the same time, one doing that, one doing that, absolutely fine. So my smartboard doesn't always write when using the pen. Is the way to change the settings. We'll go into the settings in a moment. That's how it all should work. And that's because we're using Smart Ink that writes over that. That's because I've got that download installed. As soon as you start writing, these little two dots should appear here. You may have one, you may have two. That's absolutely fine. And then within these here, you can then change the color to anything else as well. So if I just open up a PDF as an example, let's make that slightly full screen. I can then write on that one in that color. But then if I'm clicking on these inking tools here, I can then just change the colors for that as well. Those will be somewhere on your board if you've got that software installed. Sometimes you kind of might need to stand back a little to think, where are they? It might just be docked across the edge, or it might be in the middle. So let's just bring that one in here. What these used to be, if you kind of remember the old version, the old Smart Notebook 11, that was at the side as kind of a dock here. Got rid of that. I found it often just got in the way. And then having them in the middle here means that I can put them anywhere I want to. Click on that. You've got some different pens if you want to in there as well. You've got a tool chest. A lot of this is just have a play, have an explore, see what pens they are, see what is in the tool chest. Something like this spotlight. So if you want to home in on for example, on a particular word, hold the blue bit to change the color. I can then actually zoom in and highlight that particular area here. Really nice if you're having in fact, let's just bring up a picture. I've got one a bit further on down here. There we are. So I'm now using the tool chest spotlight. And if I wanted to just focus in on Scotland as an example, I could do that there. And then I'm just homing on one section of the map. What's that country there? What's this one here? And then I can move that on here. It might be you're doing a picture, a paragraph, saying, well, write a descriptive paragraph about this picture. And you're right, 2 sentences about this one sentence about that one sentence about that. And all of a sudden you've made that paragraph, but it's a bit more of a scaffolding using some of these tools. And because this Smart Ink works on the top of anything, then you can do that on any application, on any web browser, on everything. And that's that Smart Ink. So like I said, that should appear on anything. Now I've got all these annotations on here as well. I will just move the camera in a moment, just up to this little dot at the top there. So if you just bear with me, let's just zoom right in. You'll see a tiny little dot appear at the top there. What that will do is give you the ability to then, again, just save that inking. Then if I click on that dot, I can capture it, I can clear it, and it takes like a print screen. Of course, you can just use the snipping tool or something like that. But here now, I can then save that in any location. If you were doing it in Google Slides, as an example, I could then write on it, take a print screen of that, and then I can insert that into my Google Slides or wherever else. If you're doing it within PowerPoint, I'll just go full screen. It automatically starts writing in PowerPoint and it automatically saves within PowerPoint. That's because we've got like a little plugin you'll see down there. And then you can write on it. And as you kind of slide forwards and backwards through the page, all those annotations are then saved inside your PowerPoint. Finger to finger, move any object, open up any application. And if you want to write on it, there's a pen. Nice and easy. That does require the software. I'm just going to go into the question that kind of Cheryl put in the chat for a moment of what happens if it doesn't work. So we're going to jump into the settings for a moment. This all is in videos for kind of looking at afterwards. And obviously this is going to be recorded as well. So if you need to pause at any moment, just go for that as well. Obviously not for the live session. So I'm going to go into my start menu and scroll all the way down to where it says Smart. Haven't got anything from Smart, then you need the download, but you should be there already. From within there, there's the Smart Notebook software, which we're going to come on to next. But before that, we're going to look at the Smart Ink settings. Smart Ink settings, and it's just kind of looking down the side here and saying, which was right for me. So first of all, I've got it so it always turns on. So anytime I open up my computer, that smart ink is just going to be ready for me as soon as I plug it into a smart board straight away. Toolbar settings, I'd quite like to be able to see both of those, one for the pen and one for my finger, so I can change the different ones. Again, your choice whether you're turning that one on. Microsoft Office one, this is the important one for PowerPoint. So the Microsoft Office tools in Smart Ink settings, enabling the plugin and then using the smart one there as well. That means that I can just then write in that PowerPoint just by picking up that pen and doing it straight away. The other applications, you can choose to use the Smart Ink or the Microsoft Ink. I tend to find the Smart Ink to be slightly more of a smoother experience in the inking, or the Microsoft one tends to kind of second guess, which is either a good or not so good thing. Pick the one you like and go for it. Next on there, and then just click OK, and then you should be good to go. Smart Ink, write on anything. That piece of software, I am kind of whistling through this as well, essentially taking those parts of, here's a pen, write on some stuff. You want to move anything, open it up, just use your finger, you're good to go. The other piece of software itself here is Smart Notebook. It might be on here, it might be in your start menu itself here. I've just put mine as a dock at the bottom down here, and it'll open up something like that. Now, I dare say a lot of you, some of you, have seen Smart Notebook or something similar. It is a very similar layout that it's been forever. There's been constantly things added to it, but ultimately it is that whiteboarding experience in here. Whereas something like PowerPoint or a PDF is a very static resource, and I've got to prepare everything beforehand and kind of click next to go through it. That's obviously one way of teaching, but actually the dynamic, more interactive, more involved way of doing that, I'd say, something looking at Notebook. So as an example, I just copied and pasted this picture from online, copied and pasted this coin itself here, and all I've done to this coin here is clicked on the menu and clicked on Infinite Clone. So now I've got that infinitely cloned, I can bring that up on there, again, just using my finger as a finger, and then here, I can then use my pen to write on the top of that and do that. If a child says, oh, what happens if we want to add one more? Right, we just simply rub that off, move the next one up, go over the top, 20p, and I'm good to go with that one. And obviously then carry on with those ones there, wherever I need to kind of take that itself here. So then it's very much more student-led, and it's very much in the moment they can see it. Or if you're having multiple students coming up, then because it is a lost count after that, so many points of touch. Technically, I think it's 40 points of touch. So if you want 40 children all coming up and moving coins all by themselves, good luck, but the technology won't stop you. Actually, then that learning can happen the way that it needs to happen, minus the elbows, and you can have that involvement, you can have that engagement and that stuff as well. Just going to read out that comment from in the chat as well. If you haven't got that Smart Notebook software installed, version 24, then it is in your software center as well. So if you start menu, you will have yours, same icon. Mine's called Company Portal, yours will call Software Center within there itself. And that will give you access to Smart Notebook. So if you've got existing Smart Notebook files, literally just open them, and they're good to go from in here as well. If you have got a file which is something like a PowerPoint, if you have got any Active Inspire lessons or PDFs, I can go File, Import, and then I can bring in my PowerPoints, my interactive whiteboard files, whatever it might be, I can bring those straight into it. It is pretty good at bringing things in. This one here, it was a PowerPoint brought in. You might find that things are slightly kind of off, and you might need to move the odd thing up, but then you have got the objects, you have got then that movement, and then something like this where you're coming up, showing and doing, and having multiple learners coming up to here, rubbing out at the side, coming up in here, moving wherever they might be. Let's move that on, see if I can get some right at least. I can have that movement and multiple people coming up to do that itself here. And that is really the value of Notebook, doing, seeing, things like that. One other one, just kind of looking slightly more technical. I'm just going to delete this just so we can see where we've got it from. Measuring angles, that again, that it lends itself very much to the math side. If I'm trying to show a protractor, I'm either got to hold that big giant yellow up on the wall and try and balance it and not get in the way of it. But if something like this, I can bring that real world image to it. There's some measuring tools at the top here. So I can bring in a protractor, move that to where I want it, maybe click on it and actually just make it a little bit smaller. That goes on the right line. I can then kind of do the teaching points around that. Click on it, and then I've got this angle up here. There's my one, and actually click on the middle there, and it can chuck that angle out, and I can see that one itself here. Or even move that one there, set that angle out, and then I have that one for that side as well, and you've got those old teaching points around that as well. So showing, doing, involvement, and that learning together approach very much is where I'd say have a go at Notebook for that itself here. There are loads more tools within Notebook. In the videos I'll link to at the end, it does go into a little bit more detail. If I click on help, there is some training at the top there as well. But I'm just going to highlight two other bits and pieces within Notebook itself. One of them being the gallery. Now, the gallery is where you can, I can tell you what gallery is. There's loads of ready-made resources within that itself, line paper, squared paper, clocks, timers, spinners, loads of other things. One to look at is these ready-made resources. So it might be things like you're wanting 100 square, that's in there as an example. Backgrounds like the cause and effect chart. There's a brainstorming one I quite like just to show. So some useful backgrounds that you can then bring into your, maybe it's an existing PowerPoint you brought in, your old file, you've got the general flow, but then you need to take it off in the moment to actually, well, brainstorming. Actually, if I know I've got these templates in here, then I can use those to obviously to support the learning as well. Or things like a fraction wall that I can bring and just quickly, easily play and do from that. I think I spent hours making one of these when I was teaching, but now it's built into the product. It's much easier to use itself there. So that's in the gallery itself. Right at the very top of that gallery, you have got something called My Content. And within there, if I wanted to keep this third for later, I can drag it to the side here. And then I'm going to have that one saved. There we are, saved in there that I can use for later. Or things like cubes. Again, with that infinite clone, I can use these cubes here. Obviously, it doesn't replace actually physically holding and moving and manipulating those cubes. But if it's the fact that I can show that I've got 4 balanced here, as opposed to having to always hold them and actually go and support those other learners whilst they are manipulating them, that digital way of doing it would support them. And this is where I stored my Numicon, copied and pasted from their website. Thanks. Number lines, I found a really nice number line for 2s, and there's the other one for 10s. Again, copy and paste them on here, drag and drop them, and then I've got that resource for a later date. My content in the gallery. You've got things at the top, you've got different pens up here as well. To everything there as well. Do remember that if you're changing your pen to be a red pen, then my pen is red. Do remember if you then go to click it with a finger, it will change what your finger is. My pen is still red. My finger is now blue. In fact, all of my fingers are blue if you're going to be silly about it. But do remember, it knows what's clicking. So click the right one. I tend to find that I always kept my finger as a pointer, so that I could always have that movement of those objects. And then if I wanted to change my pen, I would then just be clicking on that and changing my pen to be whatever I want it to be there. Notebook. Great resource for that movement, that very active style of delivery and learning from themselves. Smart ink, right on top of anything, and you're good to go. There is loads more in that itself there as well. Go and have a play with it, see which one's right, and obviously share that best practice within your teams, with your digital leaders, and obviously everyone else across Aberdeenshire as well, or the world, take your pick. What I'm going to look at now is something slightly different. So all of that is your plugged in computer and you're good to go with that one, kind of similar to the way we've taught before, but obviously with the accurate touchscreen and with the pens themselves, and maybe with that software. If I click this home button on the board, Yours may look slightly different from that, but it functions the same. What you'll have there is an interface like this. This is kind of like a Chromebook built into the board. I've just seen a message come on here. I'm just going to click on that one. So if you can all see, there is a message in the chat saying it doesn't look like you're connected to a smartboard. I'm going to guess that you're not. Those settings and those things are there will only, that smart ink, half of the information is stored on your computer and kind of the other half is on the board itself. So if you are connected to the smartboard itself using those wires, then that message should not appear and you should be good to go. Obviously, if that's not the case and it's still not connected, you are connected. Okay, I'll finish this bit here. When we jump back into the connected PC, I'll go through kind of some troubleshooting bits and pieces like that as well to help you. Not using my PC, standalone device, nothing connected to it at all. What I've done here, I'll go through the sign-in process in a moment, but I have signed into the board itself. So now I've signed in, this is now my Chromebook. And because it's now technically it's called an IQ4. So in this IQ4, that Chromebook style phone on your smartboard, I can then start installing my own apps. And because it's my login, when I go, for example, to Teams, I can see that it needs updating. I can then see that is my calendar, that is my information within here itself. If I'm going into PowerPoint, it will read all of the ones that I've stored within that. Obviously, that's the Microsoft side. Obviously, you can sign in with your Google Side, and then all of my content can be brought in from that as well. So depending on which ones you use, absolutely fine for those itself there as well. If my computer's connected to the smartboard, is the way to pull keyboard. Come onto the keyboard for a moment, because when we go back, just clicking on install, and that will be in from here as well. I can then sign into all of these. It can remember all that content from here, or even just going to a web browser. If I'm logging into Glow, for example, I can save those credentials within here, so I can really quickly, easily go into Glow, and then once I'm signed out of the board, it's going to completely sign me out. Slightly different way of doing it, because this is then a profile on that board. It very much is a shared device rather than just closing the lid of your laptop and opening it up again. Actually, this is something that's shared for others as well, particularly on a mobile stand where you might be moving them around room, you might be going to different ones. This is quite good for that. So just kind of running over a few of the smart apps themselves. Obviously, any app that is on the Play Store, you can just install itself here. But there are a few kind of tools along the bottom. Again, have a bit of a play, see which ones are kind of relevant for you. But if we start with a whiteboard, because that's a nice and easy place to start itself here as well. So opening up the whiteboard right away will give you the whiteboard, it'll give you those tools, it'll give you your backgrounds. Mine's just taking an extra moment to load here because I have also signed into my Lumio account, which is an online platform I'll very briefly touch on the end. So it's just saving them there, but don't worry about that for now. And then, whereas before on the Android unit, you might have had your tools at the side or a notebook, your tools are at the top, they're on this toolbar here. And if you want to move those around, I can, to any of them there as well. So very just briefly kind of going on the bottom, I can open up other files, either in the whiteboard on there. I've got some different pens. Again, it knows that your pen is a pen, it knows your finger's a finger, it knows the palm is to erase. So all of that will happen. Both pens will be a pen, all fingers will be a finger. Good to go. Within here, you might have noticed, obviously, you can just change color of those. Or here, there is a finger inking tool. If you have not got the pen attached to the board, hopefully you have, or if you're wanting multiple learners, particularly for the kind of the P1, P2s maybe, I can click on that here, and then my finger will be the red, but because it knows the pen is different, it can be different on those. So if you haven't got the pens and you want to just have the mark making on here, then I can have, again, 40 children at once all coming to ink on that itself here on that whiteboard. I'm going to toggle that off, otherwise I'm going to I'll annoy myself and try and move something in a minute. Going along here, you've got a select button. I can add in images. This is a safe search. We are partnered with Bing for that. So it's great because it's a safe search on top of everything, firewalls, etc. But you may find that it's not the same bank of resources as you're finding from Google, but they are there on that one there. You've got other tools like making squared paper within that one here, 3 little dots. You've got your maths tools, text, shapes. Here's a toolbar. Go and have a play. Let the children come up and play and see what's on the bottom down here. Just one more, looking all the way to the edge here, you've got this add button. Now in this add button, again, the same resources that you'll see in Smart Notebook, they are all in here. So now if I haven't got my laptop isn't working or IT are on their way, actually I've got a whiteboard straight in front of me. That whiteboard straight in front of me has already got lots of pre-made resources that I can just in the moment say, all right, we need this, let's go that way. And rather than spending kind of a while kind of trying to do some good looking, focusing on presentation Freya model, I've actually got that straight away, and then I can do the different areas around that topic in front of me. There's also some good manipulatables at the bottom down here. There's the fraction wall we looked at beforehand. It might be something like just 100 square. Let's just move that out of the way. And then I'll come here, I can plot in my 5 times tables and see the pattern, whatever it might be. Let's pinch to zoom. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And then I've just got that object there. So lots of kind of ways to use this whiteboard however way you want. These tools are within here. And you can see that I've started to make, by clicking on the number, my lesson within that itself. Those will all be then saved to the board itself. If you are signing into that area, they're going to be saved into your area. And then I can put them into my Google Drive, to my OneDrive. Equally, if they're saved to that, I can bring them out of that absolutely as well. So open on here. Mine is just grayed out because I've saved mine directly to Lumio. But within here, you have got then that I can open a file, save this file to somewhere else, absolutely from there as well. Closing that app, same as in your phone, clicking that home button, closing that app, and that was that one there. Let's just go into the files for a moment. You can see these then whiteboards that are appearing up on here. I've got access to my Google Drive because I've installed that app. It will be coming in an update where you have your OneDrive down there as well, but just at this moment it's not. And I have got my Lumio files there as well, but don't worry about that for now. Those within your files. Web browser. There's a web browser. So obviously anything you want to do, you want to go for, you can do it on here as well. Because it is a Chrome browser, I can then have that saved. I can actually log into my same Chrome browser, and I've got all of my passwords and everything saved, so it makes it much easier to kind of jump between backwards and forwards of any of those in the browser itself there. Home button closes that one. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to go into this app switcher. So it might be that you've got your questions open up on somewhere from Inglo or somewhere from online somewhere. And then if pressing this app switcher here, the squares with 2 lines next to it, you've actually got this option to split screen it. So now on this side is going to be my web browser, and maybe on the other side, I want my whiteboard. So I can have my questions, my whatever it might be related to there. I can then still have the inking on this one here. And then there's my whiteboard, my web browser. I can move the size of it there, or I can make it that way. Of course, if I just push it all the way to the edge, it then closes that app and I've got this one full screen. That was all behind this one down here. Home button closes it. Here is your screen mirroring. It's called Smart Mirror. If you have got your teacher iPad, or if it was a Chromebook, or even your Windows PC, I can then share directly to this wirelessly. Whether that is the Windows K and just choose an external display, or from your Chromebook, clicking Cast. And if I just show you on here, just from an iPad, it's the same way as an Apple TV. Scrolling down from the top, clicking on screen mirroring. And then here, I would just choose in this case, it's the RX. And now my screen is going there. I'm sorry, it's not Aberdeenshire, but at least it's a picture of Loch Lomond. But there we go. So scroll down again, screen mirroring. turn it off, and then I'm back into that one here as well. If you're wanting to share multiple devices rather than just the one, there is some settings in here. That way I set it up so it would display straight away, which is easier for me. But obviously, if you're wanting to then load different learners, you can have them staying here, and kind of more of a permission-based, you can do it through that as well. For all that information, just go through the settings itself. Or if you just search for kind of help around Smart Mirror, there's all the kind of ins and outs around that itself as well in there. Where's that at? You can see by me kind of very purposely saying close that app, this is now that phone, if you like, version of the smartboard. Nothing connected, the software built in. I can open up different apps and kind of move the way I teach around that itself. Obviously, if all of this is a bit like, whoa, too much, plug your laptop in, use it as a touchscreen, pick up a pen, start writing on some things, and you're good to go. So it's very much, how do you want to use it? What's the best? What's going to benefit the learners or your style of delivery the best? And then you'll be able to make those decisions with other 50 million ones that we make every day. So looking at a few here, there are some more just to kind of explore on the bottom. I will just point out this tool chest. In this tool chest here, you'll see different ones here, clocks, timers, spinners. Again, these will then lay over the top of everything itself here. And I've got that clock, I can move that. He says, move it to where I need to be from there. They're in settings, I can have a look at everything within there itself, but lots of bits and pieces within that itself as well. So this is me signed into the board. So when I kind of leave the classroom, I click on my person, click on sign out, and I'm gone. If I go into the files now, once it loads, I can see that my Google Drive is not signed in. If I'm going into my web browser, I can see that I'm not signed in. It's just that generic page. It's asking me, do I want to even send notifications? Because that's the first time I'm using it. So it's very much a blank canvas. Me signing into the board means that all that content I can very quickly get to and have with me wherever I want to on any of these boards. But actually signing in, what you'll notice is this QR code. Now, if you're using your teacher iPad, for example, I can scan that QR code. It will take me to the first time you do it, there is a bit of a process to go through, but it will send me into a single sign-on with either my Google or my Microsoft credentials. Just use your Glow, just use your normal teacher email address for that one. That will sign you straight in for there. If you're doing it from a laptop and you don't want to scan the QR code with the camera, there is a web link in itself here as well. And then right down at the bottom, there is a setup an ID card. Now, these may be stored centrally. I'm not 100% sure. But rather than scanning with the QR code itself, I can actually sign in with my ID badge itself here. And that will take me very quickly into my area, which I'll show you in a moment. Scan the QR code, sign in. Click on that person again, it will just say set up ID card. And it's really simple to do, honestly. But that means I can then come up to the board itself here, scan that one. It'll ask me to hold it still. There we are. Just to verify with kind of two-factor authentication with a PIN number, I can put next. Hold it again, just to be sure. And then I'm straight into my version of IQ. I've changed the background, I've changed my apps, I've installed everything that I need so that I can teach straight from this as well. And as you can see, if I go onto the second page, there's all those apps I had a moment ago. So loads of different ways to use it. This Android version, just to kind of briefly recap before we go back into our computer, this Android one itself here, with the whiteboard, with screen sharing, all of your content, all of your apps directly on the board, it gives you that possibility to teach without the need of plugging anything itself here as well. The ID cards do need to be smart ones. I have cleverly put it behind my one already, but it would need to be these specific ones. It can't be mapped to anybody else's ones at the moment. I have the cards here. So James, oh, thanks, Jim. You've got the actual cards themselves. if we need to be looking at those. Like I said, if you haven't got that card, it just means you scan the QR code and do it that way. And it's quite nice and simple. It should come with 2 cards per board. We can always have that conversation later on anyway. The board itself, tools on the bottom, whiteboard, screen sharing, any apps that I want, any web browser that I want, straight from there. Have a go. That's the IQ side of things. Press this input button, and I'm now choosing the one with the blue dot, the green dot, sorry. So now the green dot will then take me back into my laptop, and I'm kind of taking a bit of a sigh of relief. Oh, this is where we were beforehand. Movement with my finger, inking with my pen, over PowerPoints, PDFs, anything itself, or if I'm wanting, probably not that was a good example, if I'm wanting that movement, inking at the same time, that more of a dynamic way of doing it, then I might be using Smart Notebook itself. That's where I'd have a start, have a bit of a play, have a go with any of those. There are some links I'm going to leave you in a moment with some kind of recap videos, recap guides, where to kind of take it further if you wish to. But just really, very briefly, I'm going to try and spend 4 minutes on it, is looking at a piece of software called Lumio as well. So first of all, Lumio, there is a free trial. You know where I'm going with those words. There is a free trial if you do want to use it. Also, the back end has not been 100% from our end. We know it's completely GDPR compliant, et cetera, but the APIs, I think that's the correct terms, haven't been done completely from Aberdeenshire yet. So just as a asterisk around this, DPIA, thanks, Julia. I think the IPA is a beer, isn't it? It's already 5 o'clock in my head. So have a go with this. Might be having a go on your personal email address as a starting point to see if you want to have a go at it. What it essentially does is I can bring in my PowerPoint files by importing them, drag and dropping them. I can go straight from my Google Drive if I want to bring in slides or a PDF or a PowerPoint straight within here. I can click play on it itself here. But also this will then pop up a code for the learners to connect on their device. I could do this remotely. I could do this in the classroom. The child could be having 5 minutes out of the classroom, or if they're snowed in, or if they are coming in remotely from in the sticks, then they can join for this as well. Students will in here, any movement that I've got on this, they would see it on their machines. Any inking I've got on here they would then see it on theirs as well. And because it's web-based, there's no app, you can do it on any device, absolutely. As I go through my lessons, they would then see that content as well. As I change it, they would change it as well. And then there are ways to actually convert this page rather than being a very static page itself. It could be something like a group work. So if we want everyone to start circling this page together, I could then convert that by clicking on my people here to group work. So then we come into teams and we can all write it in together. Or it might be more like a worksheet. We're using it as a handout, doing that on here as well. So there's lots of different ways you can use Lumio to actually get them engaged in learning on their devices. Or of course, if I do want to actually edit this lesson, add in games, assessments, you've got your advert-free YouTube, your Desmos, FET, if that's kind of more secondary science and maths-based. Things like closed text. I can make those games, and it's all part of that lesson itself here as well. And all of these are very kind of quick and easy to make themselves. This rank order game is just an example. I would then just type in my whatever I want to order itself here and have a go with that. And then that game is then part of my lesson itself. I can put links in Glow so they can address those and readdress so they can see them again after the lesson itself. And there's loads of ways of using Lumio. But like I said, there's that free trial to start with. Beyond those 10 lessons of that free trial, technically 50 megabytes, there is a subscription based to that. So we'll meet that if you want to have a go with it. The website is just Lumio, LUM.io. Sign in and you'll be good to go with that as well. there is loads of information. There's loads more in there. If you want to know, if you want me to do a bit more than 4 minutes on that, we can always do it at a later date, but as an example. Brill. I'm going to kind of finish it off with the question that came up for a moment, giving you a few links. So if there are any other questions that have kind of arisen, if you want to just pop those all in the chat, or if it works, open up mics, but we are quite a few, we'll go from there. So that question we had from earlier, I can just go onto my second screen and find I'm down there. There we are. Question from earlier was something about keyboards. If I have my computer connected to the smartboard, is there a way to pull up a keyboard rather than using one? Yes, there is. We'll do that on-screen keyboard, and then there's that one as well. Brilliant. So minimize everything. I'm just on my laptop itself here. Now, this is a Windows thing. At the bottom here, I've got a shortcut straight to my keyboard, and I've even got it so it's nice and easy just to use that self as well. The way I got that, I'll try and go slowly. If you click and hold, that's the same as right click. So click and hold on your taskbar at the bottom without wobbling. You can also just do it on your normal laptop. And down here, you can see I've got show touch keyboard button. By showing that button, I can have that one here. And then there's ways you can make it a big keyboard. You can make it a smaller keyboard. There's different ones with that itself. So that's a really good Windows thing to know about that. If your smartboard isn't connecting, ask IT to help is the quickest thing from there as well. I have clicked on this menu, this drop-down menu here, and there's a blue square with a white circle. That one there, I can just then go to orientate the board or my smart settings. Within that, there is a connection wizard as well. So again, my start menu down to smart. Sorry if this is just over the top for everybody. I'm just kind of trying to whistle through it. There's a smart connection wizard. I think it's in smart settings. Smart settings. I can't, there you go. Smart settings. And then within here, if it's kind of clicking up as a red cross, I can click this connection wizard. The name of your board is a smartboard MX5. So click for that one, and that will do there as well. Of course, ask the team for support, ticket it, and they'll be able to support you from that as well. Before you do that, do make sure you have downloaded that software from your service center to make sure that is up to date, because that might be why as well. Well, I can't see any other questions that have popped up itself there. So let's just leave you with a few links as well. Obviously, this is going to be on YouTube, and you can pause it and go a little bit slower than I've whistle-stopped through to itself. Well, there's any questions that have popped up on there as well. So I'm just going to pause just to do this one. I've just had a new board. Previously, I've used backgrounds, instrument music for the children whilst they were working. Now I found that if you pause the board, the children look at it. Look, if you pause the screen, the music stops. The way that these boards work, because they're different to having kind of projector and everything well, if I do pause the board, your pause button's down there. Mine is over here. It does pause the input. So the sound and everything from there as well. And then if you click play, it does play again. So there's a couple of ways around that. Either if it's on pause, just don't touch it. Or you can duplicate your screen. So if I just show you mine, for example, here, I've got you all on this screen itself there, and then on that one on the top one, which will mean that I can do my work, if you like, on your laptop connected, whilst your whiteboard, whilst your something else is playing on the side here. How to do that with that split screen duplicating pages is actually in this technical support here. So if you scroll down, there's Windows settings for smartboards, so I can use this as an extended display in that sense there. Obviously, if you're doing it from the Android device, music will carry on playing from like Spotify or from Apple Music, and you can go into different apps and there as well. So your choice around that one. Whilst we're on this column here, technical support, if you want more information here, just gives you a bit of a background around that itself. That may be something you want to avoid. Across on the actual board, if you want to know more about Smart Notebook, getting started with your connected PC, that is those videos here. There is the download guide. Obviously, yours is in the company or software portal. And then equally down here, there's getting started. There's a 5-step guide, and there's a whole teacher guide down there as well. Feel free to look at that one. The same about the IQ4, there's a getting started video. There is also a Smart Academy. And within that Smart Academy, it just gives you kind of, like I'm aware of time, I'll be 1 minute. In that academy itself here, some actually proper courses to go through and get that certification behind any of those there. More information about Lumio, I'll just leave that on there. There is more training itself. I'll leave a copy to this link. And in that, there is my email address for there as well. Obviously, Julia, Jim have got that, and the rest of the team, so feel free to go through them or come directly to myself or to Steph for more information there. I do webinars every couple of weeks. Feel free to drop into any of those and get that ongoing support for that as well. So I'll copy this link as one link to put into the chat, and then I'll just use, there's that link. And then one more here, I'm just going to leave you with this Smart Ambassador link as well. The Smart Ambassador, for those that kind of heard Julia and I waffle at the beginning a little bit, is a fantastic community. We have got an ever-growing number across Scotland. I think we're up to about nearly 50 across Scotland now, of other teachers that are using it really well, and other teachers that just want to see how other people are using it to get some ideas or inspiration. And that is the Smart Ambassador community itself. So within this page here, there's some kind of bit more information about it itself. So I'm going to copy and put that link in the chat as well. But also, which is possibly more importantly, this link is the actual application page. And what we have got as a, that looks a really long link, hopefully it works. We have got a Valentine's Day week offer going on at the moment, which means that everyone that signs up before Friday, a week after Valentine's Day, we kind of want to share the love, to use a term, if you like. And then that will give you a gift card of £10, or whether it's $10 or something. Essentially, have a coffee on us. Click on that link, sign up to be a Smart Ambassador. Obviously, get that community and all that great things that happens within that community, seeing it from others, learning from each other, sharing your expertise across Scotland, across the UK, globally, however where you want to take it. And get a coffee on the side as well. If you are already an ambassador, and if you want to refer somebody else, then feel free to copy that link, send that on to anybody else as well, so they can equally join up. And then if they put your name in the kind of Julia referred me to, or Jim referred you to, depending on which ones you like the most, then you'll both get a coffee on that side as well. So I know that's been loads of information, particularly at the end of the day. There you go. Julia said put hers. She was first. So there we go. I know that's been loads of information. Try and pick a few of those things. Is it just use it like a touch screen, pick up a pen and write on something? Is it using that smart notebook to get that more dynamic, more interactive way of doing it? Or are you going to kind of try and actually not plug your computer in, try and use that Android built in, sign in with your QR code or your badge, and actually begin to really personalize that as well? I'm going to try and ignore the chat for now. And hopefully that has been useful. Reach out for any more support with Stephanie or for myself, and hopefully have a good time and enjoy using this. And thank you very much for your time this evening.
Oh, thanks so much, Mark. That's really good. Loads and loads to take in there. But like Mark said, you know, go back to the recording. I'll get that uploaded to YouTube. I will send you out the link. I'll send out those links that Mark has sent as well. I think I've given them out before, but it's always worthwhile having them, because you know what, like when you get loads of emails and you've got to try and sift through them. So yeah, go back and pause and try things out and explore and experiment and have lots of fun. It just looks amazing, and I think you're all going to have a wonderful time with these boards. And yeah, sign up to become a Smart Ambassador. You're going to get lots of hints and tips from all around the world with great ideas for lessons, etc., that you can use. So yeah, thanks so much again, Mark, and thanks everyone for coming along this evening. Great, we'll leave you to it. I'll stop the recording now, actually.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye, those that are leaving, and thanks for your comments.